Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we will be assessing the threat level of the Vita Carnis to humanity. I will be ranking these threats simply from 1 to 10. 1 being a nuisance and something we don't have to worry about, but it is something we will eventually have to get to even if it's not a direct threat to humanity. And 10 being an extinction level threat. That is going to wipe out humanity if we do not do something about it and should be taken care of immediately. The beneficial entities will also be ranked from 1 to 10. But of course, this will be based on how they help and benefit our species. In this video, we will be looking at the Darien Quilloy universe version 1.0, since at the time of writing this, we only have Season 1 out. The main anomaly in this universe is a group or entities that humans of this universe call Vita Carnis, and we will be assessing if they are a net benefit or a detriment to humanity. We will be judging them as individual entities for each of the categories, and then as an entire species by the end of the video. So now, let us begin. The crawl out of the gate is extremely useful, with it supporting the growth of other plant life, being a food source for carnivores, and also at least being edible for humans, even though it may not taste the greatest. It also seems to grow fairly quickly and can flourish in any environment on Earth, so it can benefit anyone in any area of the world. The humans in this universe have seen the usefulness of this entity by farming it and making use of it not even needing soil to grow, just needing direct sunlight. The only problem the crawl itself seems to have is that it tends to become overgrown very quickly in the wild, with it covering a radio tower so quickly that it actually got the attention of the people in that area and made it into the newspapers. Taking all of this into account, I would say the crawl by itself is a substantial benefit to mankind, and I would give it a 6 out of 10. It will help feed billions of people and animals, and overall help a lot with healing the environment. Live in a constant state of fear and misery. Besides crawl, trimmings are the most plentiful of the Vita Carnis family. They are so plentiful that they have become pests in human environments, getting into people's homes and rummaging through their trash, making a lot of noise at night. They seem not to be much of a threat, being scared and running away from humans. The most they can hunt are insects and very small animals like mice. But in the demonstration of the varieties of types of trimmings, they show a trimming that looks more intimidating and aggressive looking, so they might be dangerous in large numbers of maybe around 20 or 30. As of right now, I would say they are just a level 1 threat, basically, since it seems they are no real threat to humanity, and there are no reports of them attacking humans. I personally don't see the benefit of having them as pets either, because it seems you can't truly train them as you would dogs, and they tend to make lots of noise late into the night as well. The only advantage to them is that they eat some of your trash. But like I said before, it seems they could evolve or transform into something more threatening, and if they do, it would raise them to a level 2 threat. But I don't see them surpassing that unless something drastic happens to their species.
Excuse me, Ed, but is this your... Good Lord, man!
Meat snakes are up next, and I don't have a lot to say about them. They seem to not be a threat to humans since they do not attack living things, only corpses, and only getting defensive when it is around its food. And it seems this humanity has been using them fairly well, with them disposing of roadkill and other dead animal corpses with it. And the butcher shop idea of disposing any leftovers is good as well, since they won't spread any disease thanks to the chemicals inside of them. Their downsides just seem to be that they could hurt people if they get in the way of its trying to eat, and they smell pretty bad. Their rating is actually positive. I would give them a level 2 with how helpful they are. They aren't fixing any huge problems in the world, but they are making life a little easier. Even taking into account the elder meat snake with its size, I would still give it the same rating since it did not seem to try to eat the people that found it and seemed to just be held hostage by crazy cultists force-feeding it corpses. So until I see otherwise, I would give it the same rating.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!
Now for the Mimic. Oh god, the Mimic. This thing is insanely dangerous. And in this universe, if there was a group that wanted to eradicate Vita Carnis and they showed me what this is, I would instantly be grabbing my gun because we are hunting some meat tonight. But let's get into it. The Mimic in its first form looks like an anorexic trimming, and it will hunt other animals since it is not powerful enough to hunt humans yet. I would give this form of a Mimic a 2, since it is aggressive and could hurt people, and even in this form, it could still kill babies and small children. Next is its mature form, and it is now much taller, stronger, and faster than the average human. They will stalk their prey for a few days to a week, most likely learning when the best time to strike is. If they are feeling up to it, they may even attack a small group of people, which I am guessing is 2 to 4 people, if they feel they can take them. They will even hide in your home, inside your furniture, waiting for the perfect moment. Suddenly, that monster under the bed as a kid is an actual fear people might have in this world, that even parents might fear looking under it. And I would say each Mimic easily has a body count in the double digits. A single Mimic would be a level 3 threat because it will kill people and it has a high probability in succeeding. Some good news about it is that Darien has confirmed a shot to a regular Mimic's head will kill it, like any other creature. So at least a normal citizen still has some way of defending themselves if they have a weapon and get a critical hit on it. Now getting to the 2 variants. The way I see them is that the human-like Mimic with skin and hair would be a Mimic that has eaten, let's say, 100 people, and that the number it is at, it peaks in its camouflage around this point. But as it eats more, it will slowly become an elder Mimic, let's say once it hits 1,000 people, and it loses all its added on human traits because it is at the point where it is too strong to be killed by regular citizens, and small firearms would not work on it against this thing anymore. It can now, as an elder Mimic, kill large groups of people, and regular law enforcement won't be able to take it down unless they have high caliber weapons. The more human-like Mimic will stay at level 3 since it only can camouflage and lure people better than its original counterpart. It will most likely still be able to be killed with a well-placed shot to the head. But the Elder Mimic will be raised to a level 4 threat, since it could go on a rampage, killing a decent amount of people and still get away to do it again, only being able to be stopped by heavy weaponry, and normal law enforcement is not going to have that on them all the time. Now for them as a group, they are extremely dangerous because if their population ever gets out of control, we are facing a very bad zombie apocalypse scenario where the zombies hide from you, stalk you, and can disguise themselves as other survivors to lure you, even mimicking a human's voice to call out for help. Luckily, they don't seem to be born as frequently as the trimmings, but they do seem to have a fair rate of creation. So as a group, I would give them a 6 out of 10. Every country should know about them and should take countermeasures to hunt them down and kill them. Making sure how to stay safe from a mimic should be taught in schools, and any mimic sighting to be reported on the TV and in newspapers. So after freaking out about that, let's get on to the harvesters.
I'm so happy because I'm a gummy bear, gummy bear!
Alright, so next are the harvesters, and they are again dangerous, but not as dangerous as the mimics since they only grow in the northern parts of the world, and they do not single out humans as their prey, unlike the mimics and the hosts. Now, what is dangerous about them is that once you are caught by them, you are 100% dead, since there is no cure for their paralysis or bleeding out venoms. So one of them will probably kill a handful of people before it is noticed and can be taken care of. Another thing about them is that they have a huge reach, about 500 feet, so you will probably not even see it before it attacks you. And probably the weirdest thing about them is that they can move. Probably not that quickly, but that may also cause a problem with pinning it down and finding it to kill it. Now, killing it seems to be pretty simple. Just have a decent sniper rifle and get a line of sight to take your shot, and that seems to be it. So they are not too difficult to kill, but it just may take a few lives before it is noticed. I would give the harvester a threat level of 3, since they are basically guaranteed to take a few lives before they are killed, and can change their position, but are easily killed once discovered. They are also pretty rare compared to the other types in its species, and only around half the world has to deal with them. Now let's get back to the semi-humanoid types with the host.
Fall.
The host is the final type of Vita Carnis that I can give a definitive threat level to, so let's begin. The host's physical form on its own without the spores is dangerous since it has claws that can tear through human flesh and has no known readily apparent weak spot. The weak spot could be its head area, but its face seems to be armored, so that could be a problem. But its main source of danger is the spores it produces, which can spread far and wide thanks to the wind being able to carry them. We don't know how much or how frequently it produces these spores, but they could infect a large amount of people if it settles in a highly populated area. Luckily, the spores, once they infect someone, they have an obvious symptom that they have been infected. But if they have no one around to notice, then they may be as good as dead, because there is a low possibility that a random person is going to notice they have been infected. Luckily, if you are infected and get detained, you will be fine after a day and a half, so it's not a 100% death sentence if you are infected. The only way to find a host would be if there are reports of infection or multiple missing persons cases, and that the victim showed signs of infection and left their homes and never came back. And even on top of that, the host can just unroot itself and leave the area if it feels like it, and making it even harder to pinpoint its location. And depending on how much people get infected, this thing could have a line of people waiting to get gutted by it. Taking all of this into account, I would give an individual host a 3, since you can recover from the infection, and even though it would be difficult finding it, once you have found it, hopefully a few bullets can take it down. And as a group, I would give them a 4, since they are the 3rd rarest type and only seem to be native to North America, so they are not a threat to any other continents. Now here come the last 2, which will be the difficult ones to rank, but here we go. The next type we will be assessing are the monoliths.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
We don't know much about these guys so far. They are very tall, being almost 400 feet tall, deeply rooted on the ground, with thousands of root tendrils in place of arms, and can cause EMP attacks when it is threatened. We know exactly how many there are, being 7, and we would know if one of these appears somewhere else since they are so huge. They have gotten aggressive before, but that was only when we intruded on them. They also have fast regeneration abilities, with a rocket being fired at it, but it quickly regenerating from this injury. And this is all we really know about it right now. But since it has such a small population and seems to be rooted to where it is, and it can't travel around, really, I will be giving it a 4 in the threat level. Since at least right now it does not pose an immediate threat to people, but where they are is basically a no-go zone, and it seems humanity has not figured out a way to destroy them yet. Now, this is just speculation, but if they started to actually be able to walk around, they would be the largest threat out of all the species so far, because a single one of these could at least partially destroy a city, killing tens of thousands of people, and maybe even more. It seems just to take one of these out, we would have to amass a large portion of our armies to take it out. If something like that happened, I would bump these things up to a level 7 threat, where they have a small possibility of wiping out humanity. But like I said, that's just a possibility, but I could see it happening in the future. And now let's get on to the entity we have the least amount of information on, the Singularity.
What the fuck is this? I don't know.
The Singularity is a solid black orb that emits energy and floats around. There are at least 7 of them around the world, which makes me think they may interact with the monoliths in some way, since the monoliths have a circular opening on their heads. We also know that a cult was doing something with them but got interrupted, so we don't know if the ritual completed or was stopped as of this time. But other than that, that's all we really know about it right now. Since we have so little information on them, I don't think I can accurately assess their threat level. Hopefully that will change with Season 2, but for now, that's all I can say about them.
About the greater good.
The greater good. How can this be for the greater good? The greater good. How can this be for the greater good? The greater good.
Now, the cult is an organization we know about, but I don't think we know at least the complete severity of it yet. They have most likely been around for more than half a century in some type of form, and they have members in many powerful places, but they don't seem to be in complete control yet, since they have not announced themselves to the world. They seem to be prominent in North America, more specifically Canada, since it seems that is where the Vita Carnis originates. They seem to have manipulated the government to be more quote-unquote relaxed with taking care of the Vita Carnis threat, not taking care of harvesters or hunting down mimics. They are most definitely also behind Nutriarco's flavor enhancer, which it seems they are harvesting the host spores and changing them to become edible to human beings, but losing the original effect of the spores. They replace it with a slower, addictive mind control ability, making people more accepting of the Vita Carnis and even worshipping it, since more cults are popping up around the world. They were even performing some kind of ritual with the 7 singularities that was hopefully completely interrupted by the carcass in the Season 1 finale. So it seems whatever the Vita Carnis is, it needs humanity to further its goals, or the cult may be speeding it up, whatever this process is. If I did have to rate the cult at this time, since we still of course do not have all the information on them, but it seems we know enough that they are another sizable threat to humanity, since their sympathies seem to lie with the meat, I would give them a level 6 rating, same as the mimics, but since their threat is more in the shadows, most common people won't know about them, unfortunately. Now, let's gather all of our information and assess them as a species, and then with the cult as well. Alright, so now that we have graded them individually, now it's time to assess them as a species. The crawl is very useful, helping our crops grow, and they are able to be used as an emergency food, but they are the seedbed for all of these other life forms, so that honestly downgrades their usefulness, because as long as they are in the wild, we cannot control what they spawn. The trimmings, like I said before, are not much of a threat, but they still are an annoying animal getting into people's trash, making a lot of noise at night, and damaging people's houses. The meat snakes can be useful in a controlled environment used for meat-based businesses, but out in the wild they would give off an ungodly stench and can cause civil unrest if a person gets hurt by them, or if they go around having a human skull as their face. Then comes the mimics, and they are the main reason I think the Vita Carnis species should be annihilated off the face of the earth. Everyone would always be on edge if these things existed, and would cause so much panic if they killed a person in the area. Not to mention if their population gets out of hand, which has been hinted at in the series, because we would have a pseudo-apocalypse on our hands with them. And I don't think I even have to mention the Elder Mimic again. Harvesters, like I said, are a problem since they basically one-shot anything they attack and have such a long radius that they can attack from hundreds of feet away from their main body. On top of that, they can slowly move around, but luckily they seem easy enough to kill with a few gunshots. The hosts are fortunately only located on the North American continent, but they could infect large swaths of people through their spores and could constantly move around pretty easily. And the parts of the people they don't eat could aid others of the Vita Carnis species, like the meat snakes eating their leftovers, or the most worrying one, mimics being able to get their fix of human flesh from the host's leftovers. Then there are the questionable monoliths and singularities that we know next to nothing of what their role is in the Vita Carnis species. I have my ideas, but I won't talk about my theories until I make my video discussing Season 1. So reviewing all of this and taking their dangers and benefits into account, I'd be on the conservative side of things and I would give them a level 7 out of 10 rating, since I don't think they can wipe out humanity yet, but they are getting close. Factoring in the wild cards of the monoliths and the singularities, I could bump it up to an 8. Now that I talked about their species as a whole, now let's discuss what I would rank them with the support of the cult that worships them. With the cult's support, things are not looking good because the cult seems to be experimenting with the species, trying to find new ways of benefiting them. They are already in parts of the government trying to play down the threat that the Vita Carnis poses, trying to reassure the public that they have everything under control and that they will be safe. While they seem to be essential to the Vita Carnis plan, or at least they are speeding up its progress with them, doing something with these singularities and slowly enslaving humanity with the flavor enhancer. With the help of the cult, I would give the Vita Carnis species a solid 8 out of 10, since they are most likely a worldwide cult at this point, and very few people of organizations even know about them. And if they do know about the cult, most likely they are already infiltrated and they have high-ranking members either a part of them or just straight up controlling the organization at this point in history. It is really starting to not look good for the human race with all of this starting to be stacked against us. But there is at least some hope, since a few people are learning about the truth in this universe. Let's hope they can save us. My gradings are of course subject to change, since we only have Season 1 of the series out so far, and the creator said that there will be 3 seasons in total. To be honest, I don't think it will go past an 8 out of 10 on the danger scale, but he could surprise me. Of course, if you have made it this far, I would really appreciate if you like the video, and I have 3 more videos planned for the series, and the next one being if I was in the Vita Carnis universe, and how I would fight back against the species. So if you want to see all those future videos, make sure to subscribe. And man, this is my longest video, and most definitely felt like it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think that's all I really have to say for now. So I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.